Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Nerds. I'm in a good mood. I'm sure you guys are. You're fighting through right now. We'll get into why I'm in a good mood later on. But Brock and Braden, how are you guys?
I'm sick.
All right.
I mean, it could be worse. I kind of anticipated that this would happen, so put in a couple bets, so at least I got some money out of this. But yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah. For those aren't aware that live under a rock for some reason, this past weekend was NFL Conference Championship weekend, and we had
Oh, it was?
two. Well, it was.
I didn't even know.
Yeah,
Didn't notice.
had no idea.
Didn't pay attention. That's
I've actually
cool.
been
Here,
in a
I'll
cryogenic
recap.
chamber the last week. You want to run me? You want to run some things by me real quick?
I will give you the rundown of what happened this past weekend. We had one kind of a blowout game, not really entertaining in the second half, and then we had one game that we'll get into later on that was a back and forth shootout. But we're gonna start off first for this episode. We're gonna talk Eagles and Commanders. Eagles win the NFC Championship by a score of 55-23 against the Washington Commanders. It was just the running game for Philadelphia that set the tone from the opening snap. Literally, Saquon 65 yards or 60 yards, whatever it was on the first play, and you kind of just knew from then on that Philly was not going to lose this game. This game got close a few different times. Washington was they were only down 7 a few times, but couldn't really string together enough touchdown drives in that second half. And Philly just had a dominant day on offense. Had 7 or 8 touchdowns. I want to say 8 touchdowns. What are you guys' thoughts on this game? Uh, yeah. What are you guys' thoughts on this game?
I just want to say I've had a lot of bad takes in my career watching sports, being a general sports fan. I think the Washington run defense is going to stop Saquon Barkley take might be the worst take I've possibly ever had in my life. Yeah, that didn't happen. Not at all. What was it?
No.
7 rushing touchdowns, the most in an NFC championship game like ever. The
Yep.
most points in an NFC championship game ever.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's all that really needs to be said about that one. Uh, Jaden Daniels tried. Nobody else really did. But would have been cool to see Zach Ertz win against his former team. I mean, he did try. He had 11 catches, 104 yards. But yeah, Washington's run defense. No, it didn't happen.
Brock?
Hey, Zach Ertz pulled the Trey McBride stat line. All
He
catches
did.
and yards, no touches,
Sure did.
no touchdowns.
16 targets, which is
That's
pretty
crazy
insane
for a tight end.
for a
Good lord.
34-year-old tight end at this point in his career.
Yeah. I mentioned it right as we were going off of our stream last week to watch out for the Eagles pressure, the Eagles defense and the pressure that they're going to put on Jaden Daniels. And while I do understand that Jaden Daniels hasn't been a normal rookie where he has been able to work through pressures and blitzes and stuff like that, I think he finally met his match, which I mean, against the league's best defense, I'm pretty sure statistically that doesn't shock me that this happened the way it did. Saquon Barkley, man, if this was a regular season game, like they would have pounded the rock even more with him to give him more yards. Like this could have been like an MVP like establishing game for him. Three touchdowns. Took him 1 carry to get to the end zone, which was funny because I was watching the game and I had some people in the kitchen and they were grabbing stuff and I was like, and back in my mind, I was like, I don't know if you want to miss Saquon running the ball because he's getting the ball to start. And then I went, oh, there he goes. And they went, Saquon score. And I'm like, yep. And that was pretty much, that was the Eagles game as a whole. Get the ball to Saquon. I I will say I'm kind of impressed with Jalen Hurts being able to throw the ball better than I thought he was going to, especially with that knee injury. I didn't know where he was at physically or mentally, because when you're a mobile quarterback, knee injury can really mess with you. But yeah, it was pretty much one-sided. I know that you said it got back down to 7 a couple times, but like mentally, I was already like, this game's over. Like it didn't feel actually as it was at that point. And then it got to the point where it felt like, oh yeah, this is exactly where the score should probably be.
Yeah, and what kind of derailed this game for Washington? Washington had 3 pretty big fumbles in this game that kind of just like there was one at the end of the first half that the kick returner Jerry McNichols had the fumble, which set Philly up for a nice scoring drive. Austin Eckler had one in the third quarter, I believe, and then Diami Brown had one when the Commanders were driving in the first quarter. It kind of just killed all the momentum that Washington had for this game. So Washington, no, regardless of how this game looked, I don't think none of us had them in the preseason making it this far. None of us had them making the playoffs. Unless you guys think differently. I know for myself, I didn't have them in playoffs or near the playoffs. So,
well, I had the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game, so I don't know if I can really say I had them in the playoffs.
And I had the Packers in the Super Bowl. So we've had our fair share.
At least yours made the playoffs.
Kind of. They kind of just like limped into the playoffs, dude.
I mean, I don't have anything on record. I guess I could just say whatever the hell I want.
You could.
And
hey, come next season though, it's all gonna be documented. All right.
God, I actually got to lock in. That's not.
Yeah. I have a
take pot shots. Oh man.
You just reminded me of something. I think I take the cake for the worst sports take of all time. I was going through our episodes last year, Brock, of our free agency recap.
No. Oh, no.
And when we were talking Saquon to Philly, I said I absolutely hated the move. Hated the move.
Oh no!
And in the clip, my first 2 seconds or 3 seconds, I want to preface this: he's a good player, but I hated the move because I don't like paying running backs. This is me being wrong, accepting that. If Saquon ends up, I know, terrible take.
That's worse than the infamous Jordan Nwora take.
That's not even worse than the Scoot Henderson one, dude. The Scoot Henderson one over Wemby was just the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life.
Ooh, yeah, that one's pretty bad.
What was your rookie of the year for the NBA this year?
Reed Shepard. To be fair, this rookie of the year was a crapshoot.
Who cares?
What are you talking about? Alex Sarr is I think probably gonna get it, maybe. And I feel actually
is he the leader?
He's averaging 9 and 9. He's the only rookie really doing anything consistently. He's on a bum team, so what are you supposed to expect?
Yeah, I don't get too upset about this year's one, but last year I don't even know. I would like to tell myself why the heck I picked.
I might need to go through and make a compilation of our amazing takes.
Please do.
Yeah,
please do, because I have my fair share of terrible ones.
I had one clipped just in case. Yeah, I'll mention it later when we probably get into the head coaching situation. But I'll mention one of my takes that I recorded.
Yeah, and we'll just get moving right into the next game that happened Sunday night. This is why I'm in such a good mood.
There was
Kansas City. What'd you say?
There was 2 games.
There was a second game.
Oh, I turned off the TV after the first one.
Well, you missed a great one, dude. You missed an absolute barn burner. Kansas City wins a score of 32.
What we all thought was going to happen.
Yeah. Kansas City wins this one 32-29, and an epic game between the Chiefs and the Bills. Yet another great game between those two. Seems like every time these two teams play in the playoffs, it's always a good game. Even the regular season, they're always really good games. But again, Kansas City had some pretty big moments that were able to win this game. The big 4th down stop at the end, and then able to pick up the first down to essentially seal it with Samaje Perine catching that little shallow crosser. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on this game? Will the Bills ever get over the hump is my first question for you guys.
Probably not. I mean, never say never, but this kind of felt like the straw that broke the camel's back, where it's like you're 0-4 in the playoffs against Patrick Mahomes. Well, it's 5-1 in the regular season and 0-4 in the postseason. I mean, that's just brutal. You can come out here and say that fourth down Josh Allen QB sneak. You can say that should have been a first down. You can say, the Xavier Worthy catch that may or may not have hit the ground wasn't a catch. But to say that the Bills could not have still won that game without, even with your 50-50 calls not going your way, is just not. It's just not a true testament to how this game went. It really could have went either way, which feels like one of the first times a Chiefs playoff game has felt like really there was a shot of them losing that game. And it feels like a while. Maybe that's just because I had hope for some reason, but
That's been gone for me for a while.
yeah, I don't know what I was doing there, but yeah, I will say I made up for the Washington run defense call by almost perfectly guessing the score. I
You
had
did.
31-28, ended up being 32-29. So
Yep.
I will happily take that one.
When it was what was it, 14-10 or like 21-10 or something like that at one point?
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, the Bills can only score 3 more points for me, for my score. And I was like, which I mean, in the second half, Chiefs defense stood up, only gave up 13 points total. They only gave up 13 points, coincidence enough. It's funny how that number always gets brought up at some point in a Bills Chiefs game. Maybe I'm a little crazy. I brought NBA into our conversation last time in the Hardwood Convos podcast. I brought the NBA and NFL together with the Miami Heat and
Dallas
Pat
Cowboys.
Riley being the Jerry Jones of the NBA. But I got another one. So Mahomes, it took him a couple tries against the Patriots to get over the hump. And like it seems like ever since then, he's been unstoppable. The Patriots were Mahomes' Detroit Pistons to what is now potentially the Michael Jordan of the NFL. And Josh Allen is the equivalent of where the Cleveland Cavaliers were around 2010 when LeBron just kept getting closer. People thought that this might be the year, or can he lead this team this time? This is what it would have been like if both teams, like if both players would have played at the same time and the start of their careers were similar in a way to their NBA careers, where once Jordan got over that hump, all of a sudden he seems to be unstoppable. I'm not saying Josh Allen needs to leave or whatever, because the only team in South Beach is Miami, so you'd still be playing Patrick Mahomes before the Super Bowl. But man, at first I was like, of course this is gonna happen. Like I didn't have hope once. Like this entire game, I was like, there's no way. I'm like, all right, how is this team gonna win? The 50-50 plays, the controversial officiating calls for some people. I honestly thought this game was one of the better officiated games in terms of games with the Chiefs involved, which is weird that we have to even like establish that like officiating with the Chiefs involved is a thing. By the way, did you guys see the fountains in Kansas City that they dyed red? Like you can't tell me that they have some kind of blood oath and they don't have like some kind of blood oath voodoo magic going on down there.
Who knows?
But man, it is what it is. This probably on paper would be the best Super Bowl matchup in terms of where all these teams were. Maybe Detroit if they were completely healthy. But I think Kansas City,
happy about it.
Yeah. I think Kansas City deserves to be in this position. 15-2 is an impressive record, undefeated at home. I mean, they were a big toe and a second toe away from having a loss in their first game of the year at Arrowhead. But now they finished the season undefeated at home, going back to the Super Bowl, have a chance to do something that Pat Riley, since I talked about him earlier, trademarked. But three-peat is a high possibility. And as of right now, I'm willing to just declare that I am rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl because I cannot stand Philadelphia sports and their fans. So I guess I don't know. Chiefs Kingdom, woo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My lawyer has advised me not to say who I'm rooting for in the Super Bowl.
Well, I first off got to say thank you to the Buffalo Bills. You know, you assembled this dynasty. You really did.
Oh my gosh.
We have the modern day Babe Ruth trade when Babe Ruth was traded from the Red Sox to the Yankees and haunted the Red Sox for years. And now we have Mahomes being traded from the Bills to the Chiefs. So first off, thank you for Mahomes.
That's not even the only trade that they've done.
No, I got two more listed. Thank you, Kansas City. Thank you, Buffalo, for not trading up for Trent McDuffie in the first round when he was by far and away the best or second best corner in that draft class, only behind Sauce Gardner. So thank you for that. And then last but not least, the guy who won them the game, I want to say, for Kansas City. Thank you, Buffalo, for trading us Xavier Worthy. You get 2 gold stars for that one. 6 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. He's solidified himself. I don't care what other people say with however the Chiefs receivers are. Worthy is the number 1 now. Now when Rice comes back in a year, he will be the number 1. What?
It's like he's worthy of that number 1 spot.
Oh,
right, but the second half of the season, he's been a dominant force for that Chiefs offense. Even a guy like Hollywood Brown, who we all knew was going to be a big factor, 3 receptions, only 35 yards. Hopkins, who I don't want to say has been MIA this postseason, but 1 reception for 11 yards. I mean,
they haven't really been even putting him in though. That's the thing.
No, which is crazy to me because he's one of the best.
Which means he's due for a big catch against the Eagles.
Right, he's gonna have some crazy, not helmet catch like David Tyree style catch, but something insane where it's gonna be only DeAndre could have made that play. But I wrap this all up to say thank you to Buffalo because you are a part in this dynasty when you look at it like that. So thank you to the Buffalo Bills for that one. I've said my piece.
I mean, he was only targeted once, but I'd still give Samaje Perine's catch bigger than any of Xavier Worthy's. Completely kidding, but
I need to say this, and I don't promote gambling on this, but I'm going to say this. I was 14 yards off from Mahomes from $500, so that was awesome when Perine went down. That was really cool. That's my last thing I'll say about the game.
The thing that no one's really talking about, I think the biggest reason that the Kansas City Chiefs are even in the Super Bowl right now or in the conversation as a three-peat, they're willing to get over what happened in the past and re-sign a running back that without him, I actually do believe they wouldn't have even made this game because you need some kind of run game to be even relevant in the postseason. And even 64 yards. I mean, one of them was a touchdown, but Kareem Hunt's not going to give you home run plays. But he's that guy that you can give the ball to 15 to 20 times a game, and he's going to work that defense down to the point where you can take those shots. And I know what happened in the past is not acceptable and everything. But when I look back at the season, if the Chiefs win, and depending on how Kareem Hunt does in the Super Bowl, it might be looked back at as one of the biggest acquisitions in the middle of a season in recent memory in the NFL.
Yeah, because as a Chiefs fan, it hasn't seemed like Pacheco's been healthy at all. I know he came back for the Raiders game back in, I don't even know how long ago that was, week 13 or 14. But he really hasn't been truly healthy since his injury against Cincinnati back in the start of the season. So them having Kareem and basically being able to be yo, you're going to be the number 1 running back in the playoffs. I don't think that was their their goal when the playoffs started. I think they wanted Pacheco to get the bulk of the carries. But when Kareem Hunt's getting 17 of the 22 running back carries in the Bills game, that's a pretty telltale sign of how they feel Kareem brings value to the team and where they sit at right now with Pacheco. I think it's just crazy because they just have the oldest team. Picture 2018, all the Chiefs players. Wouldn't this be the greatest team in 2018? The greatest team of all time? Think about it for a second. Mahomes,
yeah, but
Kareem Hunt,
it wouldn't
Juju,
have been possible.
DeAndre. I know, but just think about it. It's like that 2017 Cavs team. It's when they had D Rose, D Wade, Braun, Kevin Love, Isaiah Thomas.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the one that won the actual championship. I was like, that team
no,
was
think
If we're
No,
being
like
honest,
think of all like the old guys that got together. Granted, that Cavs team didn't do anything with those guys. Those guys
well,
all
yeah, because they were
sucked.
old.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. These guys are all old.
But like
They're all old, but,
talent wise and where they're at in
none
their
of them
career,
are-
I'd still take this Chiefs team over that Cavs team.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying like the main old stars. I'm
Yes.
just trying to make a comparison 1-to-1. But I just
whatever.
I just think it's funny.
Yeah,
Do you guys have any other?
funny that you just happen to be a fan of two fan bases that have been suffering for years, and all of a sudden you're born and they just start winning games, and then your college teams though they can't get in the end zone or can't even win a freaking basketball game to save their life. You muted yourself. I hope he did that intentionally. Austin, I hope you know you muted yourself. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
He knew he was going to get himself in trouble, so he just saved himself.
Yeah, I will say though,
What happens when you bang your desk too hard in frustration?
It will be
unplugged.
cool when the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and complete the three-peat, just because it's never happened in NFL history. I think this is the first time that a team has made the Super Bowl while contending for a three-peat, right?
Yes.
So, we'll see what happens. But I don't know what the Bills can do to ever get over that hump. The problem is though, is like looking at the AFC.
It's only going to get tougher.
Like, I do think, even though it's still a sketchy organization, I do think Cincinnati will be back, because as long as you have Joe Burrow, you'll be in the conversation. The Ravens will be back. If not, they will rebuild and be back still next year. Like, add some tools, add some, like, maybe similar to the Kansas City Chiefs, add some like older vets that will take a pay cut or whatever. Texans will be in contention. I feel like they are a couple of pieces away, and healthy rosters, of course, come into play with that, from being a real contender.
The Jags? No, I'm kidding. We're going to talk about it later. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Dude, I would have had more respect for you if you would have said the Chargers. I would have still declined saying that I would put the Chargers in contention, but like,
no, they're not. I just wanted to say the Jags because it's their next turning point of what.
Let's just say if the Bills were in the NFC, we would have had this matchup in the Super Bowl at least like 6 of the, like, how many times the Chiefs have made it.
The talent discrepancy from the quarterback position from the AFC to the NFC is actually insane.
It's worse than the no, I don't know if it's worse than the East and West in the NBA.
No, dude.
No.
All the good young quarterbacks are in the AFC, and then the quarterbacks in the NFC are like Jalen Hurts, who's in the Super Bowl, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jaden Daniels. After that, you're really stretching for some. Like,
Jared Goff.
I mean, Mr. Tiny Hands. I mean, don't have 4 turnovers in your playoff game at home. Jordan Love, I'm picked the Packers to make the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean I fully trust Jordan Love anymore. He has his moments. I don't trust Sam Darnold at all. So I'm just saying, like, you're doing side to side. Best 8 quarterbacks
didn't have a terrible season. I just don't think he has any weapons around him or a team that knows how to play football.
I think that one's more just the overall talent on the team is not good enough. Because Kyler, when the Cardinals were 7-0, Brock? Like, that team was talented, and they were able to win games. If it wasn't for the Cliff Kingsbury second half slump, then they may have done something in the playoffs.
Why do you got to keep bringing that up, man?
Just because you brought up my Iowa Hawkeyes in basketball, so I just feel like it's only fair.
Yeah.
I feel like it's only fair.
Yeah, I guess we're talking about teams that just forgot how to play the sport that they're playing.
Yes.
But like, Kyler was 9th in QBR this year, so like, I'd still, I honestly, for the sake of his career, I want him off the Cardinals because he's just wasting.
To like wrap up your point, though, I think if Josh or like Burrow or Lamar was in the other conference, I think we would have gotten basically Cavs Warriors over and over and over.
I do think that the Buccaneers, the year that they won, I think they were going to win no matter what.
Yeah, that's fair, because that team in the second half of the season was on fire. Yeah. I don't think they lost a game after their loss to the Chiefs. But
I do think that, and then people will be like, well, what about the Rams when they won the Super Bowl? I was like, they were
Man, they
playing
were a
in-
Jaquaski Tart drop from
Yeah.
the Niners going to the Super Bowl. So
Okay, man.
they were.
You're not wrong, but is this eviscerate each other's teams day? What
Yeah.
are we doing here?
Yes.
I mean,
I'm just
you wanna
stating
talk-
the facts.
I'm just sitting here minding my business.
do you
I'm
want-
just saying,
I ain't
though.
saying nothing.
Do you want to? I mean, we can talk about the Pro Bowl if you want instead.
Yeah. No,
No,
I don't.
keep
I don't want-
going. Keep going.
No, let's just move on to the coaching hires because of course, we log off on Thursday night from recording, and 3 hires, boom, 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 get announced Friday morning, which is just awesome, and which leaves what one open coaching spot, the Saints.
Yeah,
Who
that's
wants to
reporting.
coach there?
It sounds like it's either going to be like Kellen Moore or Mike McCarthy, from what I've seen.
Oh my
Sounds like
god!
Mike McCarthy's he's not going into a job right now. Sounds
So-
like he's taking this
so
year
then
off.
Probably
So
Kellen
basically
Moore,
Kellen Moore or whoever else they can pull out of the hat.
which would
Well,
mean
yeah.
the Saints have to wait for 2 weeks to hire their head coach because Kellen Moore's preparing for the Super Bowl right now.
Kellen Moore is. Oh my god! What are the Saints doing, man?
I saw a
I mean,
graphic.
who else
and
are they going to hire? Nobody else wants to go there.
It was
We just said who wants to coach for the Saints?
That's
Nobody.
true. I know, but I didn't realize how bad it was. We're relying on a guy that has relied on a running back from his rival team as a potential candidate.
Have you guys seen the graphic of Kellen Moore and Derek Carr playing each other in college?
I have. And Kellen
It's
Moore
like
absolutely
Boise
whooped him.
beat Fresno like 57-7, and Derek Carr had like one of the worst games of his college career, and Kellen Moore had like 3 or 4 touchdowns. I saw that pop up today on my feed when it sounds like he's going to be the head coach of the Saints.
I don't
But-
think Derek Carr's playing there next year anyway, so
I don't think so either.
Probably not.
But the Saints are kind of just like stuck where they're at. Like they're
They've
in
been
too deep
stuck.
with their cap situation to like be bad, so they have to keep some of their good players. But they're also not even close to like actually competing for a playoff spot in the NFC. But yeah, so the first hire that happened Friday morning was Pete Carroll going to the Raiders. Pete Carroll now becomes the oldest coach in the NFL. He was just with Seattle, was it 2 years ago or a year ago?
what are these teams doing?
This
Are
is
they
it's just
even
hilarious
trying at this point?
It's honestly for the Raiders, it's just a name to get people to buy seats, I think.
Okay. So, like, okay, I need a. Have you guys seen any of these videos where, there's this guy and I think his wife, they have a podcast, but he can only talk about sports on the podcast if he finds a way to make it like dramatic and it's related to pop culture and everything.
I haven't seen that, but yeah.
I have not.
Continue.
So they talked about the AFC West, and he called them the Kardashians of the NFL, and how like Kim Kardashian's the Chiefs because they're the standard. Everybody looks at Kim, blah blah blah. He gets to the Raiders, and he's like, the Raiders are Khloe Kardashian because they just keep going through quarterbacks and coaches, and we're all just sitting here like, what are you doing? Come on. And
oh man.
and the only reason that like I was able to relate with that is because I was like, okay, yep, she went through Lamar Odom, Tristan Thompson, and like a bunch of other NBA players, and I was like, okay, this makes a bunch of sense. The Raiders just are the Khloe Kardashian of the NFL, and like because, and I wanted to send it to you guys, but I didn't, and then they hired Pete Carroll, and I was like, oh, I should have sent this because this is exactly what that video was talking about. This is a terrible hire. Why are you hiring someone that's probably gonna not be there in a couple years, honestly?
What's funny too is the first rumor that comes out after they hire Pete Carroll is that Russ is interested in going to the Raiders. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was literally the first
this point,
article I
let's-
saw.
Let's do it. Let's do Raider
Honestly,
Nation.
why
Let's
not?
ride.
What's Marshawn doing? We're bringing the band back together.
Dude, get Doug Baldwin out of retirement. Let's just get the trade for Bobby Wagner. Like bring the old Seahawks back.
Oh my gosh, this is.
But the Raiders are now paying 3 general managers and 4 head coaches right now. Just in case you guys were wondering.
I
Yeah.
honestly, when we go through this list, I'm trying to decide which one is the worst hire that's happened so far, because this one's up there.
We'll get to the others that.
I just want to say, very few people hate another man the way Pete Carroll hates Jim Harbaugh, dude. This man has followed Jim Harbaugh like everywhere just to hate.
Yes,
I respect it, man. As a Niners
it's a
fan, it
mission.
does suck that a lot of the Niners years were kind of dampened by Pete Carroll being a hater. But as somebody who has tried to implement a little bit more hating into his life, I gotta respect it. I gotta respect it at least a little bit.
Tip your cat to Pete Pete Carroll for that one. But that was one
Generational
of,
talent in the art.
honestly, that man's been coaching. I think I saw the stat for 50 years now, college and
He's the
pro.
coach at Iowa State.
DB's
was.
coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Iowa State, where the good coaches come before they become relevant.
Oh man. Next coach that I got hired that Friday. This one may have gotten announced last, but it's just the order I have it listed down. Brian Schottenheimer becomes the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. It kind of felt like there was the Dion rumors for like a week. It was like, oh, if Dion gets offered the job, Dion's going to take it. And then there was some Colorado stuff that would make you think like, oh, Dion might actually bounce. All this to say, Jerry Jones is going to hire someone that he knows that he's still the talking point of the team. That his Jerry Jones personality is overruling what any head coach has to say.
I was so disappointed because, man, I had a clip ready to play that I said that Dion, back in October, I said Dion was going to be coaching in Dallas the next year. I just remember I played it for a buddy of mine who's a Cowboys fan, and all you see is Dawson going, don't even put that in the universe. Like we don't want that. And then they go and make the most Cowboys move ever. Like I what are we doing?
Again, it's just a way for Jerry to just make sure that he still has the Cowboys. But
at this point, the Cowboys are
is...
really screwing themselves the longer they wait to keep this like era of Cowboy football together, because the Commanders are getting better, the Eagles are getting better. Depending on what the Giants do this offseason.
Giants are doing something, surely.
Yeah, depending on what they do this offseason. Could the Cowboys finish last in their division next year? Like,
it's not impossible.
Sign me up, honestly. Sign me up for the Cowboys to finish dead last in the NFC East.
I'm sure there's odds for that already, that you can place a wager for FanDuel or whatever sportsbook. I'm sure it's already being offered somewhere. And honestly, that's not a terrible bet when you think about it.
I mean, like, I'm sorry. I'm over to the Dak era. It needs to end. And then, I feel bad for CD. Probably shouldn't have signed that contract, but also who was going to give him that contract?
Well, now the huge talking point is how much Micah's going to cost, because Mike is up for an extension.
That's their problem. Their window was last year, and their window is officially closed because of this contract situation. The 49ers are going to be in that. This is not me hating on the 49ers. This was just because it's a comparison to where the 49ers are a team that I think can still contend for a Super Bowl. Cowboys fans thought that they were contending for Super Bowls for the last couple of years, but now the contracts are coming up, and now it's going to be, okay, what are you going to do?
Yeah, because I bet Mike is going to demand up 37, 38 million. He might try to be the first defensive player to reach 40 million. I truly think.
And he's good.
He's good enough player where he can justify that and go up to any organization, including the Cowboys, and be like, I'm worth $40 million a year. And that puts the Cowboys in quite the pickle, especially since you just signed Dak back in September. You just paid CD last year. Like,
what
there's
pick
a lot
do they
of
have this year?
What?
What pick do they have in the first round?
That is a great question.
Do they even have it?
Yeah, they do. It is
12th.
They need to
Yeah,
sign,
Braden's right. Is the 12th pick. So
it's mock draft season.
Yeah. You're still in the range where you can get yourself a pretty much solidified first round talent, but you're also not going to get one of those upper echelon guys unless you sacrifice your future, and just trade all your picks for a top 10, top 7, maybe top 5 pick, which I don't think the Cowboys would do. They don't usually trade up that high for a guy they would like. So I think they're kind of in no man's land right now. It's
They,
kind of
they
how I felt like with the Saints last year. Like I knew the Saints weren't going to really do much. Granted, the Saints didn't hire a coach last year, but it kind of just felt they were stuck where they're at because they're paying all this money for all these stars, and they're just not getting a whole lot of return from any of their big name players. But yeah,
there was 5 NFL teams that had less rushing yards than the Cowboys this year. They need to go get Genty.
but do you take him at 12? That's where I don't know if you can take him at 12.
If he makes it to 12, I think you do.
Yeah, like I don't think
think
he's
you
going to
do.
make it to 12. That's the thing.
Here's my only pause on that is there's a lot of really good running backs in this class. Not just Ashton Genty, but the 2 Ohio State running backs, Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, are good. Amari Hampton from North Carolina is really good. Like, I'm not even going to mention Iowa Caleb Johnson. Like, there are plenty of good running backs you can find in the second, third round in this
You didn't
upcoming
even
draft.
mention like the guy that I think might be the best running back to take late.
Scatabo.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's another name that you could argue
Oh my god.
who could be a day one starter for the Cowboys that
What's going on?
he had a cameo appearance.
My cat is losing her mind right now. Please continue. Let me try to, I'll
But-
deal with this. I'll deal with this.
I don't think the Cowboys are in a position to take a guy like Genty at 12. I think a team like the Bengals are a team that are able to take someone like Genty at number 12.
Sorry,
Because I think that would just make your offense like actually unstoppable. But the Cowboys right now are in quite the they're in quite the situation right now from where they just hired their coach and where they're looking at future wise. And then obviously the last coach who's gonna get memed on the most, but I think he's gonna be okay. Brock's gonna show the clip. But
Duval.
it's
this man.
it's cheesy, but
No, he's trying to make it like all like I've never heard a fan chant or fan reference or fan statement sound so sexual in my life. Like he was, you see his eyebrows going and everything. Like he was trying to flirt with people or something. What is this man doing? This man is gonna win a Super Bowl someday.
Too much for me personally.
that's gonna the crazy take would be he's gonna be the best head coaching hire out of like these last 7 coaches that got in this last cycle.
Probably will be, but man, first impressions mean a lot.
Right.
Hey,
it's
Look
not
at
the
Nick
first impression you
Sirianni.
want to make.
I still hate Sirianni. Like that one, I still do not like Sirianni at all. The hate.
You can't deny that he's not a good coach, though.
I don't disagree with that, but I just don't like him.
His-
Maybe it's because he's a Philly coach,
Oh,
Maybe
trust me,
that-
I don't like him either. But like,
but I know that he wins, but
it's like LeBron. I don't like him. Doesn't mean I can't like accept that he's the second best player of all time.
Duval.
I had to fill the silence with that. Sorry.
for those that don't know who this gentleman is on the screen, his name is Liam Cohen. He was the Buccaneers offensive coordinator last year. So was an OC for a very potent offense last year with the Bucs. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Rashad White, Bucky Irving. Like that offense was pretty explosive all year long. And it sounds like all the players really liked Cohen around.
Yeah, and then they ghosted him.
Yeah, it sounded like the
Or no, he
situation.
ghosted them. Sorry,
Yeah.
right? But
He had a handshake agreement to sign his extension to be the OC, and then just went MIA for like 3 or 4 hours. Ends up flying down to Jacksonville to basically sign a contract behind Tampa's back, and then it's announced, I think, 12 hours later that he's the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So kind of a crazy story. That I'm kind of upset that we didn't like get to like cover like right as it broke. But what are your guys' thoughts on Cohen being the next head coach of the Jags?
I mean, I think he'll probably be one of the better hires, especially in that last round of hires. He's the best out of the 3 that we've talked about because he's young. He's obviously been able to put together a good offense down in Tampa Bay. Their season didn't end the way that I really thought that they could have. Makes you wonder if you already had one foot out. I'm just kidding, by the way. But
It's not a crazy take.
No, he helped Baker continue his career resurgence. He went out of his way, which I mean, any coach probably would do this, but still, first, let me say this: all the videos, he's cheesy, yes, but he sounds like he really cares about his players,
Right.
which is something that I actually do like about him. And I'm not gonna lie, the more I play that video, the more I'm starting to like this guy, and I'm like, this.
I'm a fan.
This
I'm a
person
fan. I'm just
might
gonna
be
say
the person that could take the Jaguars somewhere, because everybody else they've tried have failed miserably.
Dude, Doug Peterson was too boring. Urban Meyer was doing some off the field things that probably can't be doing in the NFL, so they don't need him anymore. This guy, he's just, I know he's cheesy, but I like the hire. I think he's like, he has his intentions that are good. It's
I'm just gonna make it a sound button every time
Please
they
do.
win next year. We're gonna just play that.
Put it right next to the Orlando Magic one,
Oh yeah,
please.
haven't been able to play the Magic
He's a
one.
goober, but I think that's what they need. Like you said,
They do.
They are not far enough removed from the era of Urban Meyer doing Lord
Some
knows what he was
things.
doing.
Some things.
But I think this is a good culture reset. Just get them settled back down. Help kind of put Trevor Lawrence back to where he should be by now. And yeah, I like this hire. I think they could do some really good things with him.
Braden, you mentioned it. This is huge for T-Law's development. He's coming into what, year 4 or 5 this upcoming season?
I think this is year 4.
It seems
So
like
he'll
been there
be year
longer,
5.
I'm not gonna lie.
What's that?
Seems like he's been there longer. I'm not gonna lie.
But he's going to be able to teach Trevor Lawrence. Maybe he can rub off some things that Baker was able to do on Trevor Lawrence. Brian Thomas Jr. was an absolute home run pick for them this past year in the draft. They have other decent wide receivers on that team still. Gabe Davis, who I know will just like go MIA in some games. He's a productive receiver. Maybe he can solve whatever was going on with Travis Etienne and maybe work in Tanks Bigsby too. Like Tampa Bay was able to use multiple running backs at an extremely high level. Obviously, Rashad White, Bucky Irving, Sean Tucker was even getting carries for the Buccaneers. So I like this move. I know everyone's clipping this right now and this is being sent all over social media, but I truly think, like, given the options that Jacksonville had, because they were one of the last few teams to hire a head coach, I think given the options that they had, I think this is probably the best one you could have made.
Did you guys see the video of him when he walked into the facility and all you hear is, "What's up, guys?" Like,
Yeah.
he sounds like a guy that's trying to talk to like his 15-year-old daughter's friends, and he's just like, "What's up, guys?" Trying to be like all cool and all that. I'm not gonna lie. The more we talk about it, I'm kind of vibing with this dude. And I really want one of these teams that has always been bad to finally break it over the top. I mean, we got close with Detroit this year, but like I want the Titans, the Jaguars. It's not gonna happen with the Raiders, obviously.
Yeah.
The Jets. As much as I would love to see the Jets actually have one decent season and make the playoffs, they're the Jets. But like the Panthers, their run to the Super Bowl before they lost to the Broncos, like those are fun teams because it's teams that you're like, oh, they're always going to suck. When the Cardinals, honestly, were 7-0, obviously I have bias towards it, but like it's fun when those teams that are kind of the bottom feeders of the NFL,
The Commanders this year. It's
Like,
a Cinderella story that everyone can wrap their arms around and
it's
like.
so much fun to root for those teams, and you can make an argument the Chiefs, when Mahomes was first starting out, was one of those. They weren't necessarily top 5 pick every year like some of these franchises, or every other year like some of these franchises are. But you got to remember that, yeah, Alex Smith was able to have a really good season the first year that Mahomes was sitting on the bench. But even before they got Alex Smith, they kind of were struggling to find an identity, and then they found an identity with Mahomes and everybody else. But I would like for like one of these teams that, even more than the Chiefs, haven't necessarily ever reached that level in terms of popularity or talent. And so I'm all in on this guy. I really hope that he is able to turn around the Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence, I mean, Dawson, you and I both picked them as a dark horse MVP candidate 2 years ago. Turned out to be terrible take.
No,
But
that's another one. That's another one you just gotta add to the video.
But it would be fun to see Trevor Lawrence be Trevor Lawrence, because when he came out of the college game, a lot of people said he was going to be one of the future quarterbacks stars of the NFL, and I think the talent's there. It's just I feel like you got to get a good system and a decent roster around him.
Real quick before we wrap up the coaching hires, what would you give letter grades for like all the hires? Like, what would you give the Pete Carroll to the Raiders hire?
That's F. I'm sorry. I think that's worse. I think that's worse than the Cowboys one. I really do, just because the Cowboys one didn't shock me. I didn't even know Pete Carroll was in contention for a job.
Right. Braden?
Yeah, I'd say probably like a D. Like it's not the worst case scenario, but it's certainly not good. I think Pete Carroll's still a pretty good head coach. It's just a matter of you're kind of in a situation where you need to start planning for the long term. And maybe you didn't see any of the coaching guys available as a long-term option, and that's okay. But yeah, I don't really know
You
what
should have hired
Pete
Josh
Carroll's really going
Daniels
to do.
again. Sorry.
Yeah, I just
Just
don't
bring
see what
back
Pete
John
Carroll's-
Gruden, dude. If you're just gonna do that.
I think he likes where he's at Barstool.
He's probably he looks like he's having a
Yeah.
lot of fun at Barstool.
He does. But anyways, yeah, I just don't see what Pete Carroll can really bring to the Raiders long term to really make it any higher than like a bottom tier.
You're going to have to start listing off all the teams that hired a coach, because I'm not going to lie, there's been so many this year, I forgot if we're doing letter grades for some of these. Where do
I'll do
give John Gruden, Pete Carroll, by the way.
We'll do the ones that just got hired this past week, and then
Okay.
we'll talk about the others. I would give it a D plus. Like, some would consider it barely passing, others consider it failing. I just think he's going to end up screwing the Raiders because they're not going to be bad enough to compete for a number one pick, but they're also not going to be good enough to make the playoffs, if that makes sense.
Talk to
I
me in
think
2 years when they're looking for a new coach, not because for whether or not it's because they fired him, he's no longer coaching because he retired again, or other things.
Yeah, and just for that, I think I don't hate the move. I'm not going to give it an F, but like I felt like there's better hires out there for the Raiders. What do you give the Cowboys hire, Brian Schottenheimer?
It's like a C minus.
That's where I was going to go.
It's the vanilla ice cream of hires. It's you didn't really want to go out and try to find yourself a home.
That's what
run
we
hitter.
should
You
have
just
done.
You wanted a puppet.
That's what we should
You
have
wanted
done.
a puppet that Jerry Jones can go around and manhandle. That's it. What can you even say? Really, it's eh.
Oh man,
Cream
It's the
flavors.
milk
That's how
toast
we.
of head
That's
coaching job.
that's how we're gonna rate our head coaching hires. Brock, what grade would you give Brian Schottenheimer to the Cowboys?
C minus. I mean, the Cowboys are just weird. That they're in a weird position. They gave this quarterback a lot of money, and they gave this wide receiver a lot of money. Wide receiver one, I can understand a little bit more. They're gonna have to give a linebacker and Micah Parsons quite a bit. Like you mentioned, he might be the first ever to get 40 mil. They need to have a good offseason. If they don't, this is going to be another 2-3 years, because you're stuck with these players. Who's going to want to trade for these guys?
Micah and CD are really the only players they have on that roster that are like desirable trade wise, and
their
Cowboys-
kicker.
yeah, Brandon Aubrey.
Brian Aubrey's good.
That's an asset. I'd give up a first round pick for Brandon Aubrey.
Kid can hit 60 plus yard field goals like it's nothing. It's kind of insane at this point. And then, I would probably give the hire a C minus. Yeah, I kind of agree. I just think it's kind of, you're not really pushing yourself if you're the Cowboys. You just, I don't know, you're just way too comfortable and you didn't want to go outside your comfort zone to maybe take a big swing at a hire, which, yeah, when you take a big swing, could fail. I totally get that. I totally get the being hesitant of doing that. But some of those home run swings end up hitting, and you have a head coach for the next 10 years. And I think the Cowboys just played this one a little too safe, and that's why I give it a C minus. Last head coaching hire of this cycle, Liam Cohen. What would you give that move to the Jags?
I'd give that probably like an A minus. I really like that move. I don't want to sit here and call it a grand slam yet, because I mean anything can happen. But I think of who was available at this point in the cycle, I think he was probably the best option available. So I think the Jags got their guy, and they're going to reap the benefits of it for a while.
Now, what kind of ice cream is that? You already did the vanilla ice cream.
Ooh.
I think we just got to play with the bit.
Ooh, are we? Man,
I'm thinking like Oreo. I'm thinking like an Oreo.
I was leaning towards Oreo as well.
Oreo's always really
solid.
good.
I don't
Sometimes
sit here
it's
and call
just
it the goat, but man, it hits.
sometimes there's not enough Oreos. So sometimes it's got to be dropped down a few
Sometimes
levels.
there's not.
You know what? The Oreo one fits because it's like one that like if you picked and like you had any choice of ice cream in the world, people might clown you for it, but deep down inside they probably would also pick it if they had a second option. So yeah, I'd give this a B plus, A minus. Yeah, we'll see what happens. He made it sound like he's going to call plays, so which is a good sign because I think he's a good play caller, obviously, with what he was able to do down in Tampa Bay.
Right.
By the way, I don't honestly remember. Was Sirianni an offensive guy?
Think so. I
Let me
think
look
so.
it
He's
up.
Italian. That's about as far as I got.
Because Dawson, I think we talked about it before. Yeah, he was an offensive guy, offensive coordinator for the Colts until 2020.
Right.
Offensive head coaches, for some reason, recent memory, they've been the ones that usually get the teams over the top and get them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, you guys kind of. You guys said the same thing I was going to say. I like the move a lot. Granted, I don't think he's inheriting a great like team talent wise.
Oh no, by no
So
means.
I think year one's gonna be some struggles, but I think this is one of the coaches that you give a few years to, because I think like he will be better. He'll get better every single year. He's a young head coach. I would give it like a B plus. I don't know if I think it's too crazy to give him like an A minus, but a B plus. I feel pretty comfortable with that, despite all the memes and all the people that are dogging on this guy for just trying to get the fans into it, just trying to get all the Jacksonville players behind him. So I'd probably give this move a B plus. So you guys just want to rate the other ones then that we've missed over the last
Sure,
3
unless
weeks
you
now?
have other things that you want to talk about.
No, I mean, unless you guys are dying to talk about the Pro Bowl, then we'll just keep doing this to kind of wrap up this episode. What would you give the Ben Johnson hire to the Bears? What letter grade would you give that?
I'd give that a B.
A B. Interesting.
I would give it similar to the guy that we just talked about, B plus, because I feel like they needed to take a risk and get a guy that, not necessarily a risk. He was the top option for a lot of people. They needed to get someone that could really rejuvenate this offense that's been desperate for a long time to be entertaining, fun, and really good to watch. And they have the talent. I really do think that they have some stars on the they have some really good athletes in the wide receiver area. Caleb Williams, obviously, I still think could be a really good quarterback in the NFL. So now the question will he be able to help with the defense or find a coach that can help coach the defense? I don't know who they hired as defensive coordinator, but I'm assuming that being one of the biggest hires in the NFL this year.
It was Dennis Allen, the
Okay.
old Saints head coach.
Okay. So I think the Bears are in the best spot that they've been in since, honestly, the Super Bowl that they lost. That's where I'm at with this, because this is the best quarterback that they have gotten since then, and I think this is the best coaching hire that they've had since then as well, even though they should have never fired Lovie and Smith in the first place.
Brock, you're probably right on that. I feel like me and you were looking at the same page. I also had a B listed. Again, I don't know if I trust Ben Johnson with some of his play calls. I mean, letting Jameson Williams throw a pass to basically end your season, I thought was an interesting choice.
Yeah.
But the entire year, he's pretty much nailed every single play call. He's really creative with his offense. I think it's gonna be really good for Caleb and DJ Moore, Real Odunze. Like, the offense is gonna be good. And they got the top pick of a lot of teams in this head coaching hire. I am always a little hesitant with first time head coaches in the NFL. So for that reason, I would say B to B plus. I know everyone's going to give him an A plus, but I'm always a little hesitant with first time head coaches. Just
Respect.
some guys just don't know how to coach an NFL team. Some are better as coordinators, but I do think Ben Johnson's going to have success pretty quickly in Chicago. What are your guys' grades on Aaron Glenn to the Jets, the Detroit DC?
It's like a B minus C plus. I feel like you're kind of just replacing Robert Saleh with the same guy. Like I said when we talked about it earlier, it doesn't really feel like it's moving the needle enough, considering where you were and the expectations you had when you got Aaron Rodgers and all of his cronies. But yeah, again with the first time head coach thing, you don't want to give it too high of a grade. But yeah, again, I don't think they made enough of an upgrade to really give this much higher than a middle of the road.
C minus. Jet's gonna jet.
Wow. Short and sweet.
Yep.
This is the Turtle Sunday of hires. Like, Turtle Sundays are okay. Like, someone hands you, like, for those not aware, Turtle Sundays are like, what, a little bit of caramel, a little bit of nuts, and like, is it hot fudge?
I literally got that the last time I went to Hickory Park.
Does that sound
Don't
right?
be hating on Turtle Sundays.
Turtle Sunday's fine. It's there. Like, it's never your first choice. For Brock, it is apparently.
No, it's not my first choice. I usually get a shake there.
But the Turtle Sunday's always there. The Turtle Sunday's a pretty safe option. I'd give this a C plus. Aaron Glenn has ties with the Jets. I think he was the Jets' first round pick back in the 90s at some point.
So he should know not to go there. He'll be a DC in 3 years.
I didn't think about it like that, but Brock's probably right.
I'm not saying that
he came home.
Yeah,
Big Bob Saleh.
But no, I'm not saying that he's. I'm not saying that he's gonna fail there because of him. I'm saying he's gonna fail there because of the Jets. So I want that to be clear.
Yeah, I would a C plus again. I just pretty safe hire, but I don't think the ceiling on this hire is like crazy high. The last one that I can think of off the top of my head is the Mike Vrabel hire to the Patriots. What would you guys give that grade?
I give it like a B minus.
B minus.
Vrabel was a good coach in Tennessee. He saw some success there, but I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. That's about as much of an analysis as I can give.
Fair.
I don't know. We'll see.
Fair. Brock, you also said C plus, or what did you say?
B minus.
B minus. Sorry. I agree with you guys. It's just kind of a pretty safe hire, kind of like the Cowboys hire. Like they didn't would they hire or interview like 3 people? They knew that they were getting Vrabel this entire time. Vrabel's been an option for a year since he got fired from Tennessee. So, and the Patriots are just refusing to change from their old ways. They want to keep that 2000s Patriots feel still in the building. So,
you know who the Cowboys guy is, ice cream wise?
Let's hear it.
He's the mint chocolate chip hire.
It
might not be everybody's favorite, but it's Jerry Jones's favorite candidate to be head coach.
That's pretty good.
All right, that's better than mine. I'll give you that one.
And that's coming from someone that actually doesn't mind mint chocolate chip. I was just thinking, I was like, what's something that everybody clowns but is not that bad?
You hit it right there, put the nail on the head. Brian Schottenheimer is the mint chocolate chip hire of this coaching cycle. But yeah, that kind of wraps up. Oh, I forgot to say my grade. I'd also say C plus. I don't know if I said that already, but that kind of wraps up this episode of the Sports Nerds. We kind of just we recapped the conference title games. I'm sure we'll have an episode next week previewing the Super Bowl. We didn't really get to talk about it too much. But for Braden Bankin, Brock Meerman, I'm Dawson Livingston signing off.
Duval.